HTML5 history API and how to use it in Grid. And yeah. Okay, first a small agenda. The talk is not too long, so don't worry. Okay, first I want to talk about why we should bother with this topic at all. Then a short how the Git standard history mechanism works. Then I will look at the HTML5 history API, and then I will show a small library, gwt-pushstate. So why bother? The short message is because good or URLs matter. Okay, this depends on your application. Because if you're just having an intranet application where you manage manage your company, you may not worry about URLs. But if you have, like example, like Google Groups, where a lot of incoming links are shared, good URLs matter. The browser history is an important piece of the user interface, and the user has expectations compared to traditional web pages. This is because the user has learned from other websites and from the other internet sites how to use the browser history. What makes a URL an URL? So an URL basically identifies a unique resource in the web, and this URL, the user can link it, he can bookmark it, or he can share it with other users or in social networks, and yes, and maybe the URL will be indexed by search engines, and what is often forgotten, the URL is your archway to your application. What means most of the time the user is user sees the URL. The URL is the first thing what the user sees from the application. Okay. The Gwt standard history mechanism is Gwt's integration into the browser history. Gwt applications usually consist only of a single page with JavaScript, and which does the logic, and the interaction with the browser history has to be simulated. For example, if you have several pages, you have to do some, you have to implement some logic where you can say, yeah, if page A, then do this, and if page B, then do this. The problem here is if you assign a new URL to the browser history, the browser triggers a full page reload, which causes the Git application to load over again, and this just looks, the screen flickers, and it's just ugly. The workaround usually in Ajax applications is to keep track of the current position in the fragment and the identifier. So this is done because you can change the fragment and identifier of a web page without reloading the whole page. The fragment identifier, however, specifies a location within a single resource, which implies that it's not a part of the URL itself, and it's an optional part. And I come to that later. Why this is really bad. Fragments are ignored in requests. So if a normal browser is requesting foo.com/hashbang1, the browser makes a request to /. There are some exceptions because I think Firefox and Chrome, the up-to-date versions, they send the hashbang to the server, but this is not it's not a standard way, and this is only, I think only Firefox and Chrome do this. I have a small demo where I can show the problem. I found this yesterday. I think we all know Gerrit, and you have the hashbang URL. What if you rewrite Gerrit, or you move it to another domain, and you want to make a simple redirect from git review Google git review to git new review. This is hard to do because the server simply doesn't know about the fragment. For a simple example in Gerrit, if you request, if you load the Gerrit without HTTPS, you get redirected to HTTPS. This works in Firefox because Firefox sends the hashbang to the server. But let's try this in another browser which doesn't do this, like Safari. So if we try this HTTP, we just get redirected to the index page, because we can have a look here. I got to yeah. Oh yeah. So there's a redirect to no, we request git review googlesort.com / the hashbang, and but the request is just made to slash. So and the problem here is if you have a server and a browser which respects the RFC, you just cannot do a real redirect because the information is just lost. You always need a JavaScript on the client to do some simple redirects. In Gerrit, however, this is very hard because yeah, you always have to ship out JavaScript on when slash is requested. Let's close the presentation. Yes. Okay. The application. Okay. First it's a hack. Well, this is not so bad because many things in the web turned out started as a hack, like I think dynamically creating content. It's ugly. Okay, this is also maybe not so bad, but I think this is very bad too because it just looks not right. And often there's also in the last project there was the marketing guys who said some company did not want to pay I don't know what money when they just have product.com / hashbang something other. So they hate the slash and they wanted to get rid of this. So it's tricky to support crawlers because crawlers ignore the hashbang. So to support crawlers, you have to do another workaround with Google has a convention where you have pretty URLs and ugly URLs, and basically you replace the hashbang with something called escape fragment, so that you can request so that you can send a specific request to a specific hashbang. And it's not maintainable because the fragment is only known on the client side, and you cannot evaluate it on the server side. So it turns out that we implement more and more workaround just to deal with the initial workaround. So why not fix the initial workaround and get rid of all this?
So a question here. Yeah. It seems like fixing the URL is not the only problem with search, because you also need to have content on the page.
Yeah. When you want a good application to be in this, you have two problems. First is the URL with the hashbang, and the other URL is that crawlers don't like JavaScript. But it turned out that this is possible with snapshotting on the server side, where the application with Java, but I forget the name, where you can snapshot a GWT application on the fly.
You could just use a headless browser, let the GWT application run with that current fragment, and then just output the DOM.
So let's talk about the HTML5 history API. You basically have two new functions, push state and replace state, and this function allows you to modify the browser's history stack and also visibly change the URL without causing a page reload. And this is what we want to do. And there's also event pop state. This is fired when the user navigates to to an entry in the browser history. For example, if he presses back or forward. So my considerations for an implementation were the browser support should be pretty good. And it should be integrated seamless into existing GWT applications. So meaning that that the applications do not care about the history or about the changes there, and that it should not break existing features like development mode or testing or something like this. Okay, let's look at the browser support. The browser support. Oh, it's lagging a bit. Delayed. Now. The browser support is actually very good. Problems here are, like always, the IE 8 and 9, but also the Android browser, which had support in 3.2.3, but these three have support, but it's so buggy that you just cannot use it. So I don't know what I did there. But it's working in 4.2.
They had proper support in 2.3 and they wrecked that completely in 3.0. It just wasn't working anymore.
Yeah, and another big problem for integration tests is Firefox supports it, I think, since version 4. And when you're running Selenium tests or something, you with JUnit, then you with HTML unit, then GWT stacks with version 3.6, and 3.6 has no push state support. So we need something for this too. Okay. I've created a small library. It's a really small library, not much code inside it, which supports push state support to give it GWT. It's in GitHub. Everyone can check this out. And I started a separate library because I wanted to get faster feedback from other users. And when I started as a patch against trunk, I never met someone who was working on a patch trunk. So playing around with the push state in a separate library was quicker because I got other people to use it. First thing, it's easy to use. You add the Maven dependency and inherit the module, and it just works. Okay, the integration into GWT. There are several push state implementation for GWT outside, but the most target some specific MVP framework. Like, for example, there is a patch for the Git activity default historian, but this is not so good because history.newItem doesn't work anymore, and other things which work with the history API won't work too. So instead, I use the standard history API. I overwritten the history impl, and turns out that this plays very nice with existing applications and MVP frameworks. I tested activities, and gwt-p works also. I also did development mode works too. There were some you have to the development mode keep working. You have to I had to stop around with the gwt server variable.
Okay. So if you overrode the history implementation, could you get rid of the timer for Safari that's in there?
No, because I wanted to be as a library, so I just override or I just extend history impl, so I can't get any things out of there.
Okay.
As we saw, we need some support for browsers who don't have push-state support, and that's why gwt-pushstate has a transparent fallback to hashbang URLs. Yeah, and the application has do not worry about it. So if you write an application, you just assume that you get your history, and you do not care about if it's /token or /hashbang/token.
What do you have to do on the server for that?
Yeah, I come to that later. I also added some automatically convert at the startup. For example, if you visit on a non-push-state browser, you get an URL foo.com/token, and this will be automatically becomes to foo.com/hashbang/token, and vice versa if someone shares this URL from his address bar, and I click on it with a decent browser, foo.com/hashbang/token gets transferred back to foo.com/token. I can demo this in a sec. Okay, here's a very simple example. It's the gwt-p 0.7 example, and I basically just added my library, and there were some small modifications because of the of some path dependent stuff, but as you can see in the URL, it works out of the box very good. So if we take this URL and try a browser which do not set push-state support.
How did you use
So it works, but the URL gets transferred to gets a hashbang, and when I'm surfing around here, let's see, so. So let's take this URL and paste it in Chrome, and you see that is okay. There's seems to be a little bug. Normally, normally the URL should be transferred back to the here it is, to the okay. Okay, Normally, there seems a bug at the moment. Normally, just the hashbang should be removed. I have to check about this later. I have a more decent example with gwt-p 1.0, and there's a new feature called root places, and with this feature you can build REST-like URLs in Gwt. For example, this is a very decent, very small example. I have a product, I have a list of products, and when I click here, I'm in the details of awesome product. So this this example is very small because just the string is passed it here. So and I think personally I'm a big fan of these REST-like URL because they look very clean to me. Okay, get back to the page. So okay, we have the fallback, and I also added extended the standard hyperlink and inline hyperlink, so that the hyperlink widget are always rendered in a clean with the clean URL format, regardless of whenever push state is supported or not. Can show this in the menu. If you look here at the link, I have to zoom in a little. Okay, is it readable? The Camino browser works with the hashbang URLs, but the links are all without hashbangs. So if this user, for example, copies a link address and shares it, the clean URL is shared. So the cool thing is you have consistent links regardless if your browser is supporting push state or not. Okay, futures. There are some bug fixes as we found out, and I can now add with 251. I can add better query string support. At the moment, the whole query string is part of the history token, which is yeah, it's bad because this is not like the original Gwt behaves. And gwt-5.1 contains a patch where the query string can be where the query string is re-evaluated when the query string changes. So I have no workaround for the Android and iOS browsers at the moment, so this had to be added, and in the end, I'm thinking about contribute the whole gwt-pushstate library as a patch back to Gwt. I think this may has to be maybe considered. There are some pitfalls, however. There is some server configuration required for deep linking, because if you wrong example, yeah. We can change the URL here, and this works pretty nice. But when a user opens this URL the first time in the browser, so you need some redirect, which redirects basically all URL to slash, and in slash your Gwt application is served. At the moment, I'm just treat the complete path as history token. This might be bad as well. I don't know. I never used it in subdirectories, but if this has to be supported, there has to be some work done. And of course, some path-dependent stuff might break. For example, get host page base URL, or for example, the auto discovery of service URLs from gwt-p breaks because the the service path changes. Yeah, this is the maybe some work which has to be done before it can be integrated in Grid itself.
I would think you'd want to use a configuration property to enable that.
Yeah, I had this idea, but I never needed this because so I did not edit.
For new apps, you can make that the default.
Yeah.
Older apps, if you just change history out from under them, I don't think that's reasonable.
Yeah. I think that
Another issue with the current implementation is there's a lot of work to make encoding work mostly consistently across all the browsers.
Yeah.
How does this handle that?
I'm just relied on the standard grid encoding stuff. So there are some.
Even with push state.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can have a look at the source and make it. Yes.
Does anybody know why it uses iframe for this system?
It's a
That's a good question.
well, two things. I think it had to do with the Safari. Maybe John kind of remembers because he was sitting next to Joel, but Safari 3 or 2 basically did not work with the hack of where the hash preserves full history, in particular scroll position. I believe was one of the problems. So when you hit the, like if you scroll down to like a certain part of the page, you know, like if there's like a hash that directs you to like a link. If you hit forward and back into the browser, all the other browsers will actually preserve where you are in the document based on the hash token changing. The Safari 2 did not, and I believe both IE and Safari 2 used that hidden like history frame as like a workaround. And so I believe that there was like, when you create a new history token, it would also like change the URL of the internal iframe. And basically depend on the browser also maintaining the history state of that internal iframe. The top one, on some browsers, the top one wouldn't change because if you changed it, it would cause like a full page reload. Like for some, like Safari 2, one of those browsers, if you actually put a hashtag in there, it would actually reload the page. It would not just stay where it was. And so instead what they do is you would change the internal iframe's URL, send that to a different page. And the back and forward buttons actually would also cause the iframe to tick back and forth. And it was like a different way of preserving the state. But I'd have to, too bad we don't have Joel in the conference because he can't.
One other issue, I don't know if it was related to the iframe, was on Safari, if you change to the exact same token that was there, it didn't handle it properly. It didn't get event fires. And so there were hacks around.
This is another, like, if we dropped out support for i6 and 7 and Safari 2 and 3, we could probably get rid of that invisible iframe that's always inserted, like the history.
Yeah, we could also get. We could also get rid of that timer that's running there in Safari, and basically reading the history every 250
change. Yeah, that's another issue. It's kind of like, especially for mobile devices, can be an issue.
Yeah,
there's like a timer like every 100 milliseconds that's reading the history for the URL.
That timer is also needed on Firefox.
For modern browsers, though, it shouldn't be needed because there's on history change.
Well, if we use push state.
No, even if you use the hashtag, there's an on hash change event now.
Today there is.
And all the modern browsers have an on hash change callback.
The problem with mobile is, especially
You
with
don't
that
have
time
to
that keeps the JavaScript VM running, that consumes a lot of battery, which is unnecessary.
Yeah, the other thing is that history frame isn't actually created under gwt control. The user puts it in their host page.
Yeah.
We could flag it and tell them don't do that.
I wonder if I can actually find out.
Yeah. Okay. And this was basically the talk.
Questions?
And with the encoding, I just rely on the functions from history impl for the encoding.
So use the browser specific ones?
Actually, I don't know.
I'm not sure. Change
Yeah,
they couldn't change the configuration or
Yeah, because they have different rules about what they screw up.
I know that, but
it's really.
That's a really nice sentence. They have different rules of what they screw up.
It's in JSON.
And some of them, there were some characters, like Unicode characters, that Mozilla, I think, always, even if you tried to encode it in the URL, could not get consistent behavior that it would double decoded.
there are various methods that are available.
Okay. 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 So.